Welcome to Mishna study, Masechet Sheviit, Perek Gimal, Mishna Aleph. Over here in this Mishnah, we're starting to move on, or this Perek, we're going to start to move on to other, working in the field itself. What are we allowed to do? What are we not allowed to do? Now, we know, just as a quick introduction, that we're not allowed to work the field on the 7th year. Now, what does this entail? Fertilizing the field is considered working the field, right? So we're not allowed to fertilize our field on the Shemitah year, and therefore, we're also not allowed to go ahead and take out the manure, right? A lot of times they would have this, if it's either animal manure or sometimes it could even be, just certain rotten foods. I mean, things are used to fertilize the ground. Now, what do you do with all this zevel, right? What do you do with all this? And what they would usually do generally, all years, they would fill up with piles. They take it up and pile it out, in their field. The problem over here on the 7th year is it could look like you're going to fertilize your field, even though you're just trying to get it outside of your house. So at what point are we allowed to go ahead and take the zevel, take this fertilizer, take this manure out of the, out of the courtyards, the homes, and put it in the field, pile them up in the field? When are we allowed to do so? Next Mishnah, we're going to speak about how to do so, right? You can't go ahead and literally spread it across the whole field because then you're literally fertilizing the field, right? So we're going to see you have to put in certain types of piles. But over here, we want to speak about this Mishnah, from when are you allowed to go ahead and do so? So when are you allowed to go ahead and take the manure out to the ashpa? The ashpa is going to be, ashpa today, modern Hebrew is garbage, but it's literally these piles of manure. So the Rabbi Meir says, when you're allowed to start taking them out? When the people who violate the fertilizing law on the Shemitah year, they no longer are working their field, right? We don't want you to be mistaken as one of them, right? They're going ahead. There's some people who would go ahead and violate the law, and they would actually work the field in the Shemitah year. They would fertilize their field in the Shemitah year. So once those people pass that season where people are fertilizing the field, then you're allowed to take it out so nobody mistakes you for an ovrei avera. Rabbi Yehuda Omer mishivash hamatik. Right, so Rabbi Yehuda says from when the matik, right? Rambam is gores matik, other people are gores matok. Over here, Rambam says matik dries out. Now, what's this matik? So according to Rambam, it's a type of bitter herb. It's it's semach that's mar. Bartenura and many others explain it differently. That it's explained as manure, right? So Rambam says when this becomes dry. Once it becomes dry, then then you're allowed to go ahead. At that time period, you're allowed to go ahead and take the the manure outside. Rabbi Yosef Omer mishi kasher, right? Mishi kasher. Also, it's in maybe a later stage, right, where it's fully mishi gamervit kasher, right? So it's fully grown. That's according to Rabbi Yosef. Probably a little earlier stage, I would say, right? When it ripens, the kasher is earlier than when it dries out, right? Makes more sense. Others explain mishivash hamat. They say matok. They explain when the fertilizer actually becomes, fertilizer becomes very dry out and there's cracks in the fertilizer, right? That's according to Manure, but Rambam doesn't explain like that. Seemingly, he explains it more based like the Aruch explains. Now. Also Radak explains, he said Radak in Melachim Bet, in Perek Dalet, he explains, he's Mefarish Pakuot HaSadeh, he calls it the Hadtal, right, which is how Rambam also calls the Matik. Over here, he calls it the Hadtal in Arabic. Okay, so that's the, that's the sum up of the Mishnah. So when you're allowed to do so, the halacha is according to Rabbi Yosef, she kasher hamatik, right, from when this matik plant goes ahead and the top becomes, dries out and it becomes, more ripened.